Good morning, Pre-K3. How are you guys today? I hope you're doing well. This is Mr. McAuliffe. Once again, I'm sitting here in your classroom at St. Margaret's, about to read to you again, just like I've been doing each week since we haven't been here in school. I've been reading every class a story each week, and today I'm going to read you a story as well. This is a special story that I picked out. It happens to be about your teacher, Mrs. Krause. The title of this book is Don't Be Silly, Mrs. Krause. It was written by Judy Cox and illustrated by Joe Matthau. So written by means that she's the author, right? The author writes the words in a story, in a book, and illustrator is the person who draws the pictures. Don't be silly, Mrs. Krause. Mrs. Krause, our teacher, is really silly. Every day she says, "Good morning, children. Please, excuse me, please hang up your goats." Don't be silly, Mrs. Krause. Don't you mean hang up our coats? At 8 o'clock, our teacher announces, "Please rise for the frog salute." Frog salute? Oh no, we shout. You mean the flag salute. It's 9 o'clock, time to write. Mrs. Krause says, "Get out your paper and penguins." Penguins? Don't be silly, Mrs. Krause. You mean our paper and pencils. We can't write with penguins. At 10 o'clock, it's recess. Our teacher looks out the window. It just stopped raining, cats and dogs. Make sure you don't step in a poodle. Don't you mean a puddle, Mrs. Krause? We ask, giggling. We play outside until our teacher blows her whistle. Recess is over, she says. It's time to chameleon. Chameleon? Don't be silly, Mrs. Krause. You mean it's time to come in. At 11 o'clock, Mrs. Krause says, "You may get drinks, but don't cut in the lion." You mean the line, we all say. At 12 o'clock, our teacher announces, "Time for lunch. Wash your hands with soap and walrus." Walrus? You're silly, Mrs. Krause. You mean soap and water. We can't wash our hands with a walrus. As we get in line, Mrs. Krause reminds us, "Don't forget your lunch, bunny." Oh, that's right. You mean our lunch money, we shout. Mrs. Krause puts on her glasses to read the menu. Today, we have gorilla cheese sandwiches. Don't be silly, Mrs. Krause. You mean grilled cheese sandwiches, not gorilla cheese. At 1 o'clock, our teacher picks up a book. It's story time. Come and sit on the bog. You're so silly, we cry. You mean sit on the rug. At 2 o'clock, Mrs. Krause calls us to the back of the room. It's time for art. Who wants to paint on the weasel? Don't you mean the easel, Mrs. Krause? How can you be so silly, we ask. After art, our teacher asks, "Who's hungry?" We have parrot sticks and quackers. We know what you mean, Mrs. Krause. Carrot sticks and crackers, we all say. At 3 o'clock, Mrs. Krause smiles. What a fun day we've had. But it's time to go home now. Put on your bats and kittens. Don't be silly, Mrs. Krause. You mean our hats and mittens. When we're ready to leave, our teacher goes to the door. Butterfly, children! No, Mrs. Krause, we all shout. You don't mean butterfly, you mean goodbye. Mrs. Krause laughs and we laugh too. Butterfly, Mrs. Krause, see you gator. And we wave goodbye as we all get on the octopus. I hope you enjoyed that silly book about Mrs. Krause as much as I enjoyed reading it to you. I miss you, Pre-K3, and I look forward to the time that you're sitting here in front of me and I'm reading to you in person. But until that day, please remember to be safe, be healthy, and be strong. Have a great day, Pre-K3. Bye-bye. I miss you.